Here is the very interesting question from the real test some of you might find challenging. Despite being tricky, you will have a lot of fun trying to find the solution. Because this question tests your imagination, spatial thinking, logical thinking, and attention to details. Please take a look at the picture and identify all triangles in this picture. Do you think you know the answer? Now might be the right time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Give yourself about 10 seconds. This is typically about as much time you'll get on the real test. Did you come up with the answer? Let me give you a tip. Keep in mind though, that in the real test, nobody's gonna give you any suggestions. But make sure to consider the possibility of one shape being inside the other. Now let's continue to see if we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. It is mind-boggling, but there are 35 triangles here. Can you believe it? Certainly was a huge surprise to me as I was discovering them. Let me draw all of them for you. I will start by drawing small border triangles. There are 10 of them. Please count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now let's do next 10 triangles. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And now let's do next 5. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Another 5. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And then the last 5, 31, 32, 33, 34, and the last one is 35. Do you think we missed any? Please make sure to leave your comment and let us know if there is even more. Hopefully you nailed this question and now learn how to answer similar questions on the test. Let's look at the interesting question which tests your knowledge of math and ability to do calculations. If a student spent $110 for her school supplies and was left with a $6 change, what is the estimated amount she spent in buying the bag? And you present it here with the pie chart which shows spending percentages in multiple different categories. You have printer paper, pens, sticky notes, calculator, notebooks, papers, and bag. And you have 4 possible choices. Choice A, $40, choice C, $38, choice B, $55, and choice D, $25. Do you think you know the answer? Let's see if we can come up with the answer together. To solve this challenge, first thing we need to do is calculate total amount spent. And we do it by subtracting 6 from 110, which gives us $104. This is the total amount spent. In the next step, let's take a look how much money was actually spent on the bag. Pie chart typically represents 100%, and you see 36% allocated for the bag, because it's represented by the dark blue color. If we multiply 104 by 0.36, we will get to the amount of 37.44. So the closest amount here is 38. Since question asks us to approximately estimate, we need to just pick the closest approximate amount, which in this case is $38. So the correct choice here is choice C, $38. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer these types of questions on the test. Let me share with you a tricky question which tests your analytical skills. How many triangles do you see in the picture? And you have triangle presented with smaller triangles inside. And you have a picture presented on the left, as well as 4 possible choices. Choice A, 9. choice B 13, choice C 17, and choice D 15. Do you think you know the answer? Now might be a good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the solution on your own. Did you come up with the solution? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge together. Let me walk you through the process of counting triangles. First, we include the largest outside triangle. Second, we include smaller triangles. Because large triangle was divided into 4, we include smaller triangles, which are displayed here as 2 and then 3. Then we include each one of the very small triangles, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 8, 9, 10, and 11. And as a last step, we include remaining smaller triangles that have not been counted in the first place, 12 and then 13. So the correct answer is 1 plus 4 plus 2 by 4, which is equal 13. So the correct choice here is choice B, 13. And the key to answer this question is to make sure you did not miss any of the triangles shown in the picture. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar questions on the test. Let's review the question, which tests your verbal reasoning skills. Choose the missing letters from below to form a word using all letters presented. And you have a 3 by 3 box, which has 3 letters missing. What you need to do, you need to try to form a word, and to form it, populate these 3 missing letters from 4 choices presented. Choice A, A-R-N. Choice B, R-D-N. Choice C, I-A-M. And choice D, H-O-W. Do you think you know the answer? Now might be a good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the solution on your own. Did you figure out the solution? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. So what we know, based on the instruction in the question, is that the word has 9 letters. Typically, letters in the sequence flow to form a word in these types of questions. So in this particular question, you need to start in the upper left corner and then flow from left to right, then from top to bottom, from right to left, and again into the middle row. And once you do that, you will see that the word president can be formed. So the missing letters are R, D, N, and the correct choice here is choice B, R, D, N. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar questions in the test. Some of you might find this question tricky, but regardless of whether you can solve it or not on your own, you will be excited to learn the solution to this real-life assessment test question. Here's the question. Determine the missing part. And you're presented with the 3 by 3 square, which has arrows pointing in different directions. In the middle of the square, you have the X sign, and one of the squares is missing the arrow. And you have 4 different choices. Choice A, arrow pointing in the bottom left corner. Choice B, arrow pointing in the bottom right corner. Choice C, arrow pointing left. And choice D, arrow pointing in the upper right corner. Do you think you know the answer? Now might be a good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the solution on your own. So did you determine the missing part? Let's continue to see if we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. As usual, to determine the next item in the sequence, we have to look for the patterns. And as you can see, both rows and columns have a sequence. So if you look at the bottom row, you see that the arrow points in the bottom right corner, then in the upper right corner, then in the upper left corner. So that is the sequence. It rotates counterclockwise. You see that the arrow goes from pointing to the upper left corner, then to the upper right corner, and then to the bottom right corner. You see that the arrow pointing rotates clockwise. And the missing piece in the middle is designed to confuse you. This is the missing piece. It would help you if there would be an actual arrow, but it does not exist. So what you see here is that this middle piece was put in place to confuse you and to show that there is no sequence in the middle row. So the sequence for the missing part would have to be reestablished from the right column. So we have arrow in the upper right box pointing to the upper left corner. The next one would be pointing to the bottom left corner. And then the following one would be pointing to the bottom right corner. You see that this particular arrow in its sequence moves counterclockwise as well. Let's recap. Notice that all arrows follow the sequence. Both rows and columns have sequences, something to look for, and each arrow points to the corners and is rotating either counterclockwise or clockwise. So the missing part involves finding the arrow that matches the pattern. The correct choice here is choice A, arrow pointing in the bottom left corner. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer these types of questions on the test. I'm very excited to share with you this question, which we frequently see on the test. Despite being tricky, you will have a lot of fun trying to find the answer. This is one of those questions that is easy to understand, and it challenges your brain and improves your IQ. It also tests your imagination, spatial thinking, logical thinking, and attention to details. Take a look at the picture and see how many squares do you see. Think again. The answer might be more challenging than you think. Now might be the good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Give yourself about 10 seconds. This is typically how much you will get on the real test. Do you know the answer? Let me give you a tip. Keep in mind though that on the real test, most of the time you don't get any tips. But since we're doing it together, I'd like you to consider the possibility of one shape being inside the other. Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. There are 14 squares that can be identified in this picture. This definitely came as a big surprise to me. Do you see them all? Some of them might be much easier to identify than others. Let me draw them for you. There are 9 small squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Even though small squares are easy to see and identify, let's look at the medium-sized squares. There are 4 of them. Number 10, number 11, number 12, and number 13. And then there is one large square. This is number 14. What do you think about this challenge? Were you able to solve it right away? In case you see some additional shapes that we missed, which is always a possibility, please make sure to share them in the comments of this video. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here's an interesting question from the real test. I have confidence that you might figure out the answer. Here's the question. Choose which of the following comes next in the sequence, and you're presented with the sequence of objects. Take a close look at the sequence and try to determine which one of the choices A, B, C, or D comes next in the sequence. Now might be a good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the solution on your own. Did you figure out the answer? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the solution together. When we look at the original items presented in the sequence, you see that the green circle presented in every box. Another pattern that we see here is that items are added incrementally. For example, first square contains 2 objects, one of which is green circle. Second square contains green circle and triangle and square. In the third box, you see that all original items are present and we have an additional yellow diamond. So we can assume safely that the item that we will pick should have a green circle in the bottom left corner, and it should have 5 items, and it should contain all original items present in the first 3 squares. This leads us to the correct answer in the choice B. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to look for the patterns in the test. But in case you need more questions like this, please make sure to check out my ebook in the description section of this video. Here's the tricky question from the real test, but somehow I have a feeling that you might be able to come up with the answer. What comes next in this sequence? And you have sequence of items: do, mi, so, and then the missing item. And you have 4 choices to pick from. Choice A, RE, choice B, FA, choice C, LA, and choice D, TI. Do you think you know the answer? Now might be a good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Did you figure out the solution? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge together. As you might have figured out, the items represent music sequence. And the music sequence is Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. If we look at the sequence, we notice that some of the items might be missing. And you see that the Re, Fa, and La are skipped. So the next item in the sequence will be Ti. So the correct answer here is choice D, T. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer these types of questions in the test. Hope this video was helpful and helped you solve your challenges. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video.